We're going to talk about The Logic of Sense by Gilles Deleuze. It's an amazing book, and you got to see it to believe it. Okay, so we're going to focus on the notion of a paradox. Now, what Deleuze does is he interrelates two kinds of time. Let's start this video here. Okay. What Deleuze does is relate two kinds of time. First, the Chronos time you may all be familiar with, called the arrow of time. Arrow of time runs from the past all the way to the future, or from the present to the future, the past to the present, all those arrows of time. Then there's the AION time, AION time in French. AION time is a very different kind of time. It keeps slicing through the Chronos time and chopping it up into finer and finer pieces until there is no present at all. Now, in looking at what he's done here, let me start at the beginning so you get a fresh sense of this. We're going to be looking at the whole notion of organizational storytelling and its relationship to sense making. In the background on the one image I'm going to show you is a fellow in a wizard in a hat in New Zealand, Christchurch, New Zealand, that I met. And he's one of four wizards, wizard of the north, the south, the east, the west in New Zealand. Now that seems like utter nonsense, except it does make sense when you look at it through the eyes of Gilles Deleuze. So let's just start with a look at what is the 12th sense. It's the 12th chapter in Deleuze's Logic of Sense. Now, Chronos is the present, which alone exists with a direction of the past and the future in two directions, It's moving out in the two directions. AION, AION, is past, future, and infinite subdivisions of the moment endlessly decomposing themselves and sidestepping the present now. So there's no now present in AION. And the reason is because if you look at the notion of systems in organization or organization storytelling, you remember Louis Pondy and Ian Mitroff's classic article built on Kenneth Volding's work, where you started with the frame system, the mechanistic system, and then you had a control cybernetic system, an open system, an organic system, an image system, a symbol system, a multi-brain system, and a transcendental system. Mitroff and Pondy didn't do much with the transcendental or the spiritual system, and that's only one way to define it. And they were interested in this notion of the hierarchy of these systems, as was Kenneth Boulding. In my book in 2008, I'll grab it here for you. It's right on the shelf where it belongs. The storytelling organization, and you see it here, storytelling organizations book. I go through this idea of, hey, maybe systems are not in a hierarchy at all, and what you got to do is look. I don't even know if I could find it right off the top here, but it's in here somewhere. And I wanted to look at what if we take the hierarchy out of the systems. But Deleuze does it a little bit differently, and we want to kind of look at that notion of the systems not in hierarchy. And this is where my work on anti-narrative comes in. But let's get to that when the time comes. So somewhere you'll find a pyramid. Just look on Google and you'll see the 9 or 11 systems that I talk about in storytelling organizations and try to make them non-hierarchical. I think that's what Deleuze is doing. Now, know now present. Remember, people are always saying, oh, stay in the now, be in the present, stay now, be now, and now is all there is. Well, that's bullshit. According to Deleuze, no now present can exist in this notion of systems within systems within systems. So think of the Russian doll as one system inside of another system, or think of the hologram of systems pointing to other systems. So to regularize, you need a system, right? But the AION opposes this and keeps leaping from one singularity to another singularity. And what is a singularity? Let's just have a simple definition to start with. It's a turning point. It's a point of eventness that stands out from the ordinary events. And in my work on restoring with Grace Ann Brazil, we talk about the little while moment and the opportune moment. Little while moments of the past stand out from the ordinary moments of the past because you tried to do something a little different. It kind of worked, but the system defeated you. In the opportune moment is Kairos. You know, it's the opportune moment to ask the question, like an opportune moment when I asked Grace Ann Rosil. I saw her in the food line. She was talking to a friend. I broke in the food line and back. Hey, not a good thing to do, but I was passionate. I heard her say, I'm only going to date vegetarians. I raised my hands and I said, hey, I'm a vegetarian. What's good here? Tell me what you're going to pick out. As if I was a vegetarian looking for information. I wasn't, but in that nanosecond, right, of the non-present now, I took that opportune moment and said, I'm a vegetarian. And it took her a year to figure out that I wasn't. Good thing we were in a distance relationship than her watching me cooking, or she would have figured it out immediately. But anyway, I become a vegetarian. I've stayed vegetarian for about 25 years now. And you can be a meat eater. I don't care. So the AION is leaping from one singularity to another, like one special moment to another. And it's not buying this notion of the straight beginning, middle, end of narrative that everybody talks about when they define narrative plots as having a beginning, middle, and end. Just go from Aristotle to anybody in the present, and they're about that. AION is those little wow moments and opportune moments in the non-existent now, where there's two kinds of sense operating. And this is where we start to understand sense making. Now, for Carl Weick, it's the 5 senses, sense making of enactment in the now. The now is happening. We have our 5 senses. We're making sense in looking backwards retrospectively. 2012 Human Relations, he says, well, not just retrospectively. I buy what Boje is saying about anti-narrative, spelled A-N-T-E, where we can be forward-looking, making bets on the future. So that's got Henry Bergson just rolling over in his grave, because Henry Bergson would only do retrospective and said you can't do forward-looking. But for Gilles Deleuze, he says, okay, unlike common sense, there's good sense that foresees, or what Louis Ralph Pondy called enthinkment. What is the thinkable? What questions are we asking? What questions are we not asking by asking those questions? What questions could we be asking? So he would be dancing different theories together when I was a student of his in the doctoral program. We wrote a book together with Dan Brass on managing 1 and managing 2, where we talked about dancing partners. And I updated this in a new book by myself and Ronnie Saylors about the life and time of Louis Ralph Pondy as a mentor, and me mentoring Ronnie. So it's one mentor to another and me mentoring in that same tradition. Okay, let's keep going. So if there's this no now, there's also no unity of the identity narrative. And identity narrative always makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, because I don't think it really exists. We don't have one self. We don't have one identity narrative that manifests a self through our 5 senses. And I can break into a walk. I can wake up from the sleep world into this world. Let's talk about what is good sense and what is common sense. Now, good sense cannot fix anything. It can't fix a beginning, middle, end. It can't take a direction. It's distributing itself across a whole diversity of little while moments and opportune moments. So it's unable to fix itself. But common sense does fix itself. Common sense transcends itself towards an instant of a particular little while moment, like when I met Grace Ann and for the second time and declared my vegetarianism, and then my love for her, and then we got married. And see, these are these little while moment, opportune moments, etc. So you stop to measure and attribute. So I stopped for an instant, I measured my life, and I said, hey, this path I'm on is not great. She's on a great path. I'm going to join her on that path. Now, the paradox here is the reversals that keep happening between the good sense I had to join with Grace Ann and the common sense that says, well, I need to check it all out. I need to decide if I can be a vegetarian. Can I handle the diet? Can I do this? So, and the notion, am I becoming mad? Yeah, I'm becoming madly in love, madly in love. You see everything through the love lens. And there's the unforeseeable, the nonsense of the lost identity of myself. Let me give you another example. I was a professor at UCLA. Then I was a professor at Loyola Marymount. Then I was a professor of University of New Mexico, or New Mexico State University. No, not that one, New Mexico State. Then I was a professor at Aalborg University. I'm about to become an invited adjunct, something or other.